Hi everyone, you're listening to A Few, Not the Many. Great name, I'm Jo Swinson, just the leader of the Liberal Democrats. I've been kindly invited to talk about my policies and my view on Brexit. Now normally you'd have your usual hosts, but I, as leader of the Liberal Democrats, wanted to reach out to the majority of the reasonable people in this country, the politically homeless, who don't want the extremes of Boris Johnson or Jeremy Corbyn. So today I'm announcing that I am not going to appear on this podcast unless those Marxist dinosaurs, especially David, are replaced by reasonable centrist hosts, preferably Heidi Allen or Tom Watson.
Get her out
In
of here.
fact, I have already contacted them about... Hey! What are you doing? I'm not done yet! Look!
Warned you, Joe. Sorry, listeners. You're now listening to the Lib Dem Free, A Few of the Many. Hi, we're here with Andy.
Lib Dem Special!
That wasn't me, by the way, that was...
Nat Mason, grumpy trade unionist.
Ree.
And who we do have on the left.
Cato Street. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Cato.
Thank you.
Today, boys, we have a choice because we have 3 real fuck-ups for you that have just come through to us. We have this, the Turd in the Kitchen accolade, an award we give out every other episode when a politician has done something so stupendously stupid, bizarre, or just plain
Off the wall.
Wrong.
yes, that they just need to be recognised for it in a very negative way.
Yeah.
I was going for Chris Leslie to be Turd in the Kitchen for life.
We'll have a special
Yeah, we'll have an
award.
honorary award. Yeah, an honorary night.
Can we induct him into the Academy?
Every year, yeah, every
The
year.
Chris Leslie Memorial Award.
The most inept politician of
The
all
Turd of
time.
Fame. Every year we'll induct one permanently into the Turd of Fame.
As like, this was the best or worst of the year. And so today we have James Cleverly, as I'll explain in a moment.
He should get it just for his name.
What's wrong with James?
Nothing. My favourite band, come on!
Oh, sit down.
Jo Swinson and her whole career, particularly last week. Prince Andrew, there we go there.
Name redacted.
I mean,
Convicted.
I fucking hate the royal family, and that's why I hate being called Andrew, because I'm fucking named after him.
Really?
Really?
Yes.
Oh, crikey.
That's why my brother's called Philip.
I think that's the thing which just highlights how stupid this scion of our royal family is. Epstein is convicted of sexual offences, very serious ones. He's still palling around with him 2 years later.
Yeah,
And he's
yeah.
like, oh, I'm aghast at all this. How did you not know you were staying over at his house 2 years after he was convicted in a very public case?
I'm so appalled, I waited till he was dead till I said anything.
And I'm miraculously going to disappear from the public's eye at the same week.
Will he get his comeuppance though? Will he be prosecuted?
I don't think he will, but it's fun to imagine because when the US wants to extradite someone, they want to extradite someone as a show of their power. But will the royal family give them up? So it's kind of like an unstoppable force. I mean,
The
it's an
extradition
immovable
treaty
object.
we've got America. If we want to extradite somebody who's in America, we have to provide a whole ream of evidence. They don't. They just say we want him. So, James Cleverly, Jo Swinson and Prince Andrew are the 3 contenders. Can you tell us again why James Cleverly's up for...
James Cleverly, the chairman of the Party of Law and Order, the Conservative Party, has just been caught by the person he crashed into of speeding down the M11 while on his phone. Crashes into the back of a car. Guy gets out, films it, asks him, "What's your name, mate?" Cleverly looks him in the eye, just ignores him. It's like saying, "Oh, I accept I was at fault here." Drives off. Guy phones him up later. Cleverly says, "I'm not accepting liability for that."
James, not so cleverly.
Isn't leaving the scene of an accident an offence?
Well,
Yes.
yeah, well, I don't know if it was reported to the police. Was the
Said
thing.
with the assurance of a postman.
It is though, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
always thought he was the most inappropriately named politician in the House. So, leaving the scene of an accident, speeding, driving on a fucking motorway of all places while looking at his mobile phone and causing an accident. It's got to be a ban for driving at least, that, hasn't it?
You'd hope so.
That's what I believe is known as a dick move.
Well, it's like you look at the video, which I've seen. He just looks as though he's asked him something in alien language. When it's like, "What's your name?" so we can get to the bottom of this. He's like, "How dare you address me, peasant?"
Fucking hell. So, James Cleverly, Joe Swinson.
Well, Joe Swinson's entire career is on trial here because, of course, what she did last week, which was, my party wants to stop no-deal Brexit. My party wants to stop Brexit itself at all costs. Time is running out.
Party of 15, which is massively representative of public opinion.
Yeah.
I think what I particularly like about how they said, well, we are the party of the politically homeless. We have had a general election since Brexit was announced, 2017. Although the Lib Dems went up by a couple of seats, vote share as a percentage and as an actual hard numbers both went down. And yet they claim they can dictate what the leader of a party, which gained 3.5 million,
Yes.
to reach Blair levels of popular vote share.
Yeah.
Lib Dem Special.
I think it's got to come down to a vote, really, as which is the worst of the three.
I'm going to go with Prince Andrew. You know why?
Why is that?
Because hanging around with that type of... The other two, all right, political people, yeah? So we know that Cleverly's a Tory bastard. Say no more. We know that Swinson is a yellow Tory bastard. Right? Say no more. But Prince Andrew is a fucking representative of our great supposed nation who hangs around with a fucking paedophile. And then, like Andrew said... Sorry. Andy says...
Yeah.
He didn't say fuck all until the chap had been murdered.
Yeah.
Or whatever happened.
Oh,
That's
no, he
fucking...
committed suicide while he was on suicide watch in a 24-hour fucking security, high security
So
prison.
I'd suggest it's got to be fucking Prince Andrew, right? Because he is... We expect the shit from the other fucking...
Without even making any allegations of what Prince Andrew may or may not have done. To hang around with such a fucking reprobate...
After he'd been convicted.
After he'd been convicted.
And say fuck all about
I'm sorry,
it until
that's
the day after he's fucking brown bread.
more than
Fuck
anything,
off.
that's just poor judgment.
That is the poor judgment of the century, arguably.
Yeah.
The worst thing about the Jeffrey Epstein episode is the fact that both of his guards who were guarding him died in a car crash.
Did they?
3:00 next Wednesday.
No. I fell for that, I wouldn't believe. Damn.
So I'm going to vote against popular opinion for Joe Swinson. I mean, Cleverly is fucked up on the road, you know. I mean, the Labour Party recently have had what happened in Peterborough. People are dickheads on when they drive, and we know he's a dickhead. And what he did was particularly terrible, fucking asshole. But he's a Tory. What do you expect? He can't do anything different. And Prince Andrew, I think all the royal family are turds in the kitchen anyway. So I'm very anti-royal. So I'm going to vote for Joe Swinson just because for the last 3 years, the Liberal Democrats have been saying, if you voted Remain and want to remain, we can stop Brexit. Come and join us. If you are a Labour supporter and don't like Jeremy Corbyn's stance on Brexit and you want to remain, come and join us. We are the Remain party. And then they get a golden opportunity to prevent the very worst kind of Brexit. You know, whether you're for or against Brexit, a no deal is disastrous.
And time is ticking, isn't
Yes.
it? Time is running out if you want to stop that.
Golden opportunity to form a coalition and get rid of the no deal, which even the Tories 3 years ago were saying there's 1,000,000 to 1 chance of a no deal. It's never going to happen. It's inconceivable. And they elect a leader whose promise is a no deal come what may. He's even threatening to suspend Parliament to do it. Like, call a general election midway through October, Parliament suspended, we can't stop it. So it has to be her, just for that. Irrespective of a voting record and fucking other nonsense, she gets my vote for that.
Just on that as well, like, obviously we're all very anti-fascist here, and there's the great Iron Front kind of symbol of the 3 arrows representing the 3 strands of that coalition of people particularly opposed to Nazism, the rise of fascism, totalitarianism, and it was the Social Democrats, the trade unionists, and the Liberals.
Yep.
Okay. They just cannot see at the moment that we are facing such a fucking catastrophic rise of the right-wing, far-right populist, like Nazi-enabling people, not just here, across the world, you know, Trump's America. And they just cannot stand in solidarity with people who are saying, oh, let's look after the poor and we'll, you know, make sure that disabled people aren't dying every week.
That's an absolutely critical point in my favour for Joe to be the one. So if you tie it and we go through again, Nat might change his mind and vote for Joe.
I was thinking about going for Joe simply for the reason because it just shows how it just all falls down every time. They seem incapable of actually taking a principled stand, even on the easiest open goal in the world, without just like kicking themselves in the face.
Lucas and Sturgeon came out saying, "Are you fucking mad, Joe?" Like within a day.
Yeah, both of them did. And now she said, "I can't work with Corbyn because he never voted for Remain. He never campaigned for Remain." What?
I'm not certain that he voted for Remain, but it's a secret ballot, you know? He'd certainly fucking campaigned for it.
This is the thing, and this is where the FBPE and the hardline Brexiters don't get is like, because a politician didn't go for their way, they're illogical, dishonest, that kind of thing. So what was Corbyn supposed to do? Was he supposed to say EU is either progressive utopia with literally no flaws whatsoever, or a hellhole? When he's kind of like, well, I'm 7 out of 10 for it because there's some good stuff about it, but there's also a lot that needs reforming.
Yeah.
And yet somehow this is, how dare you say this because you've lost us the referendum?
Perfectly reasonable stance. I'm 7 out of 10
because
for the Labour Party.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let alone Europe.
Ironically, when the Lib Dems are all like, oh, we don't go to the extremes, they've gone to the extreme on this issue, which yet they've just fallen down on again.
Yeah.
So it's just a meaningless stance. Whereas Corbyn's actually trying to sort of mediate a consensus.
Yes.
And yet somehow he's the mad extremist who no one will want to work with.
Yeah.
All these people to comment on our leader when their own worthless parties can't get anywhere in the polls anyway, or at least in terms of translating that to seats. She's the queen of the universe.
Caroline Lucas. They've got one MP. They've had one MP for like however long it is, and she thinks she's got the power to call an emergency cabinet.
That's a prime example of the liberal sort of thing again, of like, we'll get all the women together because women are naturally, I don't know what the rationale was, but you hear a lot of this in the liberal circles, is because women are naturally different to men. They're more progressive, more, consensus. It's like, you're going into coalition with all these right-wingers whose policies enabled the Brexit vote in the first place.
Didn't she include Anna Soubry in it?
She did.
Heidi Allen as well.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Anna, Heidi, oh, austerity makes me cry. Vote for more of it. Oh, austerity makes me cry. Vote for more of it. Alan. Oh, she's one I particularly
What is she in this week?
I believe it's Unite for Remain.
All right.
Lip Dem Special.
Here.
Our podcast's politician of the week, like we mentioned, is Jo Swinson. And not because she's performed some great virtuous deed or anything, but she's a Lib Dem, and we've seen what the Lib Dems are all about this week. As we saw in 2010 with austerity, the tuition fees. No, we're going to abolish tuition fees. Actually, no, now we're in power, we're going to triple them. Thanks for voting for us, guys. Sorry about that. Come back in 2015.
I mean, I thought that was really bad at the time. Nick Clegg did a students' union tour promising, if you vote Lib Dem, we won't raise tuition fees, blah, 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 blah. And they love selling themselves out, the Lib Dems, don't they, to the highest bidder. So I thought that was bad. But to base your entire party's manifesto around one policy, prevent Brexit at all costs, and to announce you'll firmly remain, etc., and then say you can't work with Corbyn, and I'd rather vote for Boris and get no deal through than work with Corbyn.
Or I'd rather bring in Ken Clarke, who's voted several times for Theresa May's deal.
Yeah.
Advocates a soft Brexit. But what's going on?
It's like Churchill, who I've got absolutely no respect for, I just want to make that clear from the off. He was able to work with Stalin, who'd murdered 35 million people, but Jo Swinson can't work with a democratic socialist. The first time I heard that we're living in a post-truth era, I thought, well, that's bollocks. How can you be post-truth? Truth always is the truth. But it doesn't seem to have the slightest effect on these bastards, does it?
We've all watched Hypernormalisation, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to the Lib Dem special of
Yes.
A Few of the Many.
Lib Doom.
Let's go back several years to when the Liberal Democrats first formed. They were originally called, was it the Social and Liberal Democrats?
Yeah.
Following the Alliance.
Yep.
Okay. Social Democrats kind of added a social liberal kind of aspect to them, but chiefly, since Charles Kennedy, they've been in thrall of the Orange Book right wing of the Liberal Democrats. In fact, it's probably worth arguing that Charles Kennedy's Lib Dems were probably more left of Blair's Labour. Probably say that it was Nick Clegg that killed Charles Kennedy.
Probably.
Just absolutely tattering his legacy.
Yeah, sadly.
So, we've seen the Liberal Democrats in the thrall of the Orange Book, which is like the kind of right-wing, classical liberal faction of the Liberal Democrats for so many years. We were given, well, not we, because we're all Labour Party members, and rightly so, as you should be at home. The Liberal Democrat membership gave us Ed Davey and Jo Swinson to pick from, both very firmly of the right wing, both at the heart of the coalition government, and they just haven't got any fucking solutions, any ideas, any policies, anything apart from we need to return to a kind of management style politics of individuals that have individual personalities. And that's why they're trying to go for this, we need Ken Clarke because he's a strong individual and he's been there for a long time. It's like, well, the power of Jeremy Corbyn is that he's got, most of a 500,000 plus membership behind him.
Yeah.
Right, that's where the strength comes from. It's not because he's been in the House of Commons a long time.
You're right.
He's made all of these links. He's always been on the right side of the... That's where his strength comes from. But the Liberal Democrats, they just cannot see that.
Well, to them, the idea of political sort of inspiration is either a completely crap slogan, like bollocks to Brexit, or...
Which is pretty snappy, but to be the first people to complain about uncouth politics if it was fucking Labour saying it.
Yeah, absolutely. Or it's like, look at this viral video, how inspiring it is. Don't actually go out and organise just to say, yes, that person in this completely contextless video sounds good, therefore they should be Prime Minister and sort everything out. And it's like, that's just the liberal mentality, is it's individuals and personalities, like you say. There's nothing wrong with the system, it's just a few bad apples or it needs tinkering around the edges.
Which leads it into this kind of technocratic framework, which is all purely based on a neoliberal kind of capitalist economic model. But they've got literally no solutions and no policies as to how they're going to heal the divisions in society. Because even if we remain in the EU, how are you going to not have an alienated nation? Right? I personally still think like a soft Brexit, kind of close alignment on different aspects would probably be in the national interest.
Yeah.
And Corbyn's got that idea. I think he's probably ceding too much to kind of the moderates at the moment, but you know, we've got a whole process that we're going through regarding it. But I was never fooled. Bear in mind, like, I was 20 years old in the 2010 election, and I was at university.
Yeah.
I was in Salford, Great Manchester, and so many people I knew, so many people were going to vote Lib Dem because they believed him.
Yeah.
They believed what he said. I agree with Nick. That was the campaign, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I agree with Nick. And I said at the time, I don't fucking agree with Nick. He's going to sell us out the moment he can.
Yeah.
And what did he do? Proceeded to sell us out. Joe Swinson was at the heart of that.
Of course she was.
So, say she manages to rally Ken Clarke into becoming the caretaker Prime Minister. Then what happens? Which principles will she sell out on?
Also, Ken Clarke also said the next general election he's stepping down. So he could be. So what's the point of him? What's the point of putting all your chips on him?
The man who makes all his money from the tobacco industry.
Exactly.
But he likes jazz and all that, so clearly he's the man to lead
And
our
he
country.
wears suede shoes. Yeah, there must be some art there.
I know he likes jazz, but it's not the good type of jazz, is it?
No. Well, also he was a Tory Chancellor of the Exchequer, which permanently condemns him to hell anyway.
Yeah. And did you hear that ridiculous car crash interview he did with when he was trying to promote his idea to reduce rape sentences?
No.
It was when he was Justice Minister very recently under Cameron. Terrible.
Ugh.
Terrible.
Yeah, I just wanted to read this poster from about 2009 from Nigel Farage, of all people. It's been over 30 years since the British people last had a vote on Britain's membership of the European Union. That's why we want a real referendum on Europe. Only a real referendum on our membership of the EU will let the people decide the country's future. But Labour don't want the people to have their say. The Conservatives only support a limited referendum on the Lisbon Treaty. Why won't they give the people a say on their real referendum? Whether you agree with Europe or not, it's vital that you and the British people have a say in the real EU referendum. Did I say that was Nigel Farage? I'm sorry, that was Nick Clegg.
Was it? Fucking hell.
That's the other thing that's gone unsaid throughout this podcast, and probably throughout the past 3 years. The Liberal Democrats have aided and abetted this referendum every single step of the way.
Yeah.
They were fully in support, as were the Green Party. In fact, it was Ed Miliband was being criticised for wavering, thinking, oh, we probably shouldn't give them a referendum because we might come out.
Bringing it back to Joe Swinson specifically, rather than the Liberal Democrats, because that's what this episode was about, isn't it? And how she's our inaugural turd in the kitchen.
Yes.
You know? But Joe Swinson's voting record, let me just give you an example of some of the things she's consistently voted for. To raise tuition fees, against strengthening the military covenant, which really pisses me off, for reducing housing benefit, against welfare increases, against raising disability increases, and against spending public money to sponsor guaranteed jobs for young people.
Let's not also forget she was one of the architects of employment tribunal fees.
Yeah. She was
which
indeed.
She has recently claimed she had nothing to do with and she was voting against. She was in government at that time, working in that ministry.
This is...
Well, she announced yesterday that Corbyn didn't campaign to remain.
I saw that. It was like, he campaigned hundreds of times. It appeared on hundreds of...
What the hell is she talking about?
In fucking Hucknall, I'm sure.
About Swinton as well. It's like it's this thing about Schrodinger's Lib Dems. Oh, we were in government and we stopped all this, the worst instincts of the Tories. And it's like, actually, we had no power in the Conservative government. We were just their minions. It's like, well, which one is it, mate?
What was it they capitulated on so that they could get the 5p plastic bag charge?
Oh yeah, increase and tighten benefit sanctions.
Yeah.
That disease spad of theirs was on, saying we had so many great achievements and this was one of them.
They voted for welfare sanctions in order to introduce the 5p carry bag charge.
Which is going to
and then
disproportionately affect working class people.
And then proudly announced it on Twitter like it was a massive achievement.
This is the whole liberal ideology as well. Oh, we've got to compromise. We've got to hand over some things to get this. It's like this country in the world is perfectly capable of introducing bag charges and also not having crushing benefit sanctions because we can afford a fully funded, healthy welfare state which genuinely looks after the people within it.
Literally, in that government, the Liberal Democrats were kingmakers because the Conservatives could not have got anything through. Absolutely nothing. But which point did they take an ethical stand? Did they take a moral stand against any of the horrible, vindictive attacks on the poor, the disabled, the working class? At which point did they ever have a principle to stand on?
But they were in power. They got nice, fancy cars. I think you're missing the point here.
No, they
How many fucking ideas?
Why don't we
is
sell
there?
the post office?
Can we talk about Cyril Smith and the fucking paedophile scandal as well?
Do you remember the thing about Steele, what Steele said? Where he admitted, yes, we kind of did know about the Cyril Smith allegations back in the 1970s when they were happening, but we thought he was too useful and powerful a Liberal MP to hold on to, so we just ignored them. And he openly admitted this, like, about a few months ago. And then they just reinstated him after a few months because they thought, well, it's not really that bad a thing, aiding and abetting paedophilia.
But where's the liberal values in that?
No, whenever they speak about Cyril Smith as well, they say Liberal and former Labour man. Have you noticed? Because he was in the Labour Party for a chunk of it. So they have to say, but he was in the Labour Party as well, for a bit. It's like...
Well, he was a Liberal man for much longer.
So what else has Joe Swinson done in a historical career?
Oh, how could we forget? There needs to be a statue of Thatcher because she was a woman and she broke the barriers and she's an inspiration everywhere.
Yes.
And then we get onto identity politics.
Absolutely, and there is a place for it, but when the Liberals put it front and centre...
We need more female CEOs.
And concentration camp guards. We need more Latina ones in America.
Absolutely.
It's the thing about the EU saying the EU is fighting the patriarchy by having two multi-millionaire leaders.
Christine Lagarde, former head of the IMF.
I love
a top job. And that's a great breakthrough for women.
I did absolutely love what Farage said about the new commissioner of the EU. He said... She only won 52% of the vote. She's not got legitimate mandate. You could make it up, mate. He actually said that.
That is pretty fucking stupid.
She's got no legitimacy. She only won 52% of the votes. And I'm like, can you hear yourself, you prick?
All three of us here were campaigning for Remain. We all campaigned for Remain, even people who voted to leave. But none of us did that because we thought the EU was the most fantastic thing in the world and it's the greatest club you could ever be part of. Like, we've all got our criticisms of it. But, I campaigned on a Remain and reform with the Another Europe is Possible kind of guys. Like, trying to make a trade unionist case. But, like, what exactly does Jo Swinson expect is going to happen when she gets all her greatest desires come through at one point and we remain in the EU?
Everything goes back to the way it was in the sane era of pre-2016. When the Olympic Games came along, we saw that wonderful intro thing.
Danny Boyle display of Great Britain.
I've literally seen arguments on Twitter where people say that was the highlight of British history because that was when we were all united and together and everyone was happy.
FBPE is a cult though, right?
It certainly is. And
Jo Swinson is an absolute nobody. She's going to lead the Liberal Democrats to maybe make about 15 gains in the general election, and she may just cost the Labour Party a majority. And that will be her job complete.
She may lose her seat yet, though, because her seat is not safe and there is a surge in the SNP in the area she's around, because there aren't many safe Liberal Democrat seats. Farron, last election, he only just squeaked in with about 700 votes.
Wow.
I think only Cable's got anything approaching a majority. That's quite substantial.
Well, Chuck has obviously got a large majority, but that wasn't as a Liberal Democrat candidate.
I don't think he'll survive as a Liberal Democrat candidate either.
And that's a nice thought to end on, right?
Yay! You all right, Dave?
Yeah, sorry, miles away.